From Los Angeles and Nashville, get ready to go behind the scenes with Entertainment Dudes. What happens when you pair a director, a voice actor in a world, and some of the most interesting people in entertainment? You're about to find out.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Entertainment Dudes. I am your host, Jason Crossman, and I'm accompanied by...
I'm also your host, Cam Cornelius.
Another
and
one
I'm
of our
accompanied
hosts.
by
Jason Crossman. I'm also a host, and I'm accompanied by...
Cam Cornelius, a host as well, voiceover dude, and I'm accompanied by...
I'm director dude, Jason Crossman.
How long can we do that?
I don't know.
That's
Probably
the show,
forever.
ladies and gentlemen. Thank you
And
for joining
thanks
us.
for being with us today. We're really excited to have you come back again for another episode of Entertainment
Dudes.
Once again, I'm your host. No. Well, for those of you who didn't catch, I think this is our 29th episode. We're excited. We're approaching 30. For our 28th episode, Cam and I had a great conversation about cinematography and about our work with cameras and prepping for productions. Also, today's episode, we're actually going to talk about working with clients because dun, 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 our favorite part. Actually, sometimes clients are absolutely amazing and a complete joy, and other times it can be challenging.
You know,
Like
my
working with
view of it
people.
is that working with clients is much better than working with no clients.
That's true. No matter what the client is. Well, I don't know. I've had friends that say, I had to fire my client.
Oh, me as well. Yeah. Yeah.
So I have had to fire clients before,
Right.
and maybe we'll get into that a little bit later. Like, why would you ever do this? And okay, sorry, had to do a quick pause. I have a meeting coming up, a production meeting that we've been working on, and I'm supposed to fly out tomorrow. We don't know where we're going yet because it's a show that I'm working on, and there's going to be a winner for this series. And they don't know the winner yet. They're announcing it today, and then literally they're going to buy the ticket right away, and we go to hand out this massive check because they win, and they want to see the reaction live. So somewhere in the States, we don't know where we're going yet. Yeah, and so they just texted and said, we need to talk. I was like, okay. I was like, I'm doing a show first. So where were we? What were we just talking about?
We were talking about clients and some people fire clients.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So in production, when you just get started, a lot of people, you probably are starting cinema maybe because you want to direct films, you want to direct movies, you want to direct something, music videos. Oftentimes in the beginning, you can't, as a director, you need to build a reel. You have to have something to show someone that says, why we're going to hire this person.
Right.
I've had people tell me, like, just take in your resume. And I laugh at this because I'm like, they don't know you. They have teams that they work together. You've created small teams. You have people you trust. And generally, you have to prove yourself no matter what you've done in order to get in with a group. It usually takes about 3 to 5 years before you can really start to break in wherever you're living. So if you choose to go somewhere, just estimate about 4 to 5 years.
Right.
Before you really begin to make a living out of it. I mean, you can get by. You'll work to get by. That's great. But before you begin to create something where you can start to live comfortably, it takes time. Unless you already know somebody and they move you into position or whatever. Or you can apply for jobs. Yes, you can get them. They are looking all the time. Production companies are looking for people. Obviously, out in California, there's a lot of internship roles. If you want to do the Hollywood route, I highly recommend doing internships. You don't get paid to do it while you're here. It's like it can be tough trying to figure out how to make it work, but those roles often lead into higher positions.
Right.
I know a couple people. One of the people who was the CEO of DreamWorks. She had started as a PA, worked an internship, and came in and worked her way up. So it's a fantastic way to get into the studio system. But if you're going to go the independent route and you're going to create your own production company and you want to have clients or you want to have, generate your own shows, if you don't choose YouTube, if you want to do something where you're working with someone else, then today's episode is probably going to help you because we're going to talk about what it's like and how to get and work with your clients.
Yeah, and in any route, I mean, you're just building your circle of trust. So in any route you go.
Yep. So Cam, when was your first? How did you first start getting VO clients? What did you do?
It's very interesting because I was in VO, then got out of VO, and then got back into VO. And when I got back into VO, it was from a previous client because I had gone into the director of photography world and done all that, and I'd been out of VO for several years. And it's very interesting that the client called me back and said, "Remember this script you did like 10 years ago? Well, the project got shelved and we want to release it now, but we forgot a page of dialogue. Can you come in and match yourself from 10 years ago?"
Really?
I guess
I
so.
can try.
I can try.
I'll see if
So
I can make
we went
myself
in.
younger.
Yep.
Yeah, let me put on the younger voice here.
Hi, how you doing? Anyway, I went back in and did it, and he pestered me for like, probably a year to get back into voice acting, and I did, and so that's where where I came back in. Now the hard part was, yes, I had that one client, but coming back in, the voice acting world had changed. It became much more of a business than it used to be. So that's where you just have to kind of start again, and people recommend you to other people. You go and build a new demo. Work with people who train voice actors. You take workshops. You do these things, and through these different
Like
methods,
Everett Oliver,
right?
who
Like
was
Everett Oliver.
one of our episodes, two of our episodes.
And so you meet more people and again, build your circle of trust, and you get clients and new clients through that. Even the people that do your demo can actually introduce you to people and agents and things that will, build your ability to make income.
Yeah, I think for me it was I started doing PA work, production assistant work for a company called Seventh Story Productions. I think it was a 15-hour day, and I made $50. It was all night long. 15, I think it was 5 degrees below zero. All night. Wait, can't do anymore. Can't do anymore. All night, can't stop.
All night long. Okay.
So, and then I think it was just from there, by working really hard, doing my best there, I began to find a client. What's my client? When he starts hiring me as a production assistant.
Right.
And then from there, I started working on the editing team, and then we worked into story development. And then I ended up becoming an AD, and then I ended up directing some stuff. So we had did about 35 short films, 3 features with that company. And so I had just been working up for that. One of my other companies, I'd also started while I was in college. I started a company called Quixotic, where I was a network of independent contractors from around the world. Since the web was such a great place, I had people working in Dubai, I had people in Pakistan, I had people around the country, and then I would work during the day, and then they would work at night building websites. We'd shoot the videos. We'd shoot the video pieces for, okay, oh, all right. That was an attack by my cat, for
cat
those of you who
attack.
didn't see it. It's like I literally just wanted to hug. I guess now's the time. So I think that was a long process. And then from there, I started working as a PA on some music videos with different companies. A lot of companies are looking for editors. So I would be like, hey, I'm a director. They're like, that's nice. And you're like, can you edit? And I was like, well, I can edit. They're like, great. Can you edit this? I'm like, well, do you need to see my reel? They're like, we need it by Tuesday. And so I ended up doing tons and tons of editing. And that just ended up making me a better director. I was able now just to edit everything in my head, really, really quick in a way that I couldn't have done had I not done that. But one of the things I like to do is when you're first meeting a client, who's a potential client? A potential client is someone who is actually in need of production services. And how do you find them? A lot of times I find mine just through references from other people or through conversations I have where I meet someone at a restaurant, or I'm going about my day doing something I'm already working on, and someone says, hey, do you do full production? Yeah, I do production. And a lot of it is about just being able to strike up a relationship. I like to ask questions to find out exactly what that person is looking for. I have a company, and we're doing a new project that does XYZ. From there, I like to go back and research the company. So I'll find out who they are. I'll find out all the material I can about them. I like to go to newsletters and things that they've written in the past. A lot of times, because in newsletters, clients generally share information that's most important to them that they feel is important to their audience. So they'll often drop little nuggets in there about something that's important to them. If I'm about to do a big proposal for a company, I like to demonstrate or show that I know something about them and that I've taken time to learn something about them. Oftentimes, the forward-facing presentation is the website where you can get like major key points that they care about. Things like newsletters, articles written about them, articles they've written for other companies. They generally share information underneath that's important to how they function. So I generally will get a good idea, a picture for the entire company. And then from there, my goal is to say, how can I take what their company is and create something, a story that can communicate that message to their audience. And what do they want their audience to know? So who is their audience and what do they want our audience to know? And how do they want their audience to respond? Those are 3 really important questions. I want my audience to hear what my nonprofit does, that we're helping children overseas. I want my audience to feel sympathy for these children, or to feel like we're doing a great job serving them and they want to help. And then I want my audience to be able to, give contributions, or to spend time, or connect us with resources, or pray, or whatever the case may be. Those are things that enable you as a director to figure out what a company wants and then come up with something creative to answer those questions.
And many people overlook the importance of researching a potential client, because I see so many on just the different groups of people, even sending out cold emails of, I'm a voice actor. I do this, I do that, I do that. And there's too many eyes in it. And what you want to do is show that company that you've invested some time in learning who they are. Talk more about the client than about yourself.
Yeah.
Because the client wants to hear what you can do for them.
Yeah, it's interesting. Whenever you're writing letters, like Cam just said, you'll see I. It's if you're writing a resume, or if you're writing, a letter to a client or a letter to a friend. I really think that I have a I. It starts with I. I love to be able to say something where I'm looking at a client. Let's say they're building spaceships or something. I'll say, it's fascinating how your company has been so proactive and leading the industry in developing new technologies for space. In particular, it was fascinating. In particular, it was your article that you wrote about, rocket propulsion, where you really had a fundamental challenge and you overcame it by XYZ. I think it's exciting to work for a company that has found a way to, solve so many problems and done it so effectively, and has
you don't
inspired
have to
so
be
many
a
people.
rocket scientist to follow Jason's example. Well, maybe you do.
Maybe you do.
Maybe that example you do. But
But everyone else's, it can work for anyone.
everyone else, exactly.
Yeah. So I think it's interesting and exciting, and something to be able to lead with them.
Yeah.
Because it shows that you're interested in your client. If your true desire is to serve your client and their clients, then you have to be others focused.
Right.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the times, you go in with, this is the idea, this is what we're doing, and in reality, they're paying you. And is the customer always right? No. But in the end, the customer does pay the bill, and if you want your check paid, even if you think it's not right, like I think they made a mistake here, but I do want to do the best job that makes them happy. That makes them proud. If I don't like the project I've worked on just because of the choices the client make, I don't add it to my reel. I never see it. I take my paycheck, say thank you, and I hope it's effective for you and your team.
And sometimes you can do a director's cut and, do your vision too,
Yeah, you can definitely do your vision of a piece. I've done that a couple times, especially in reels where the choices that I pick for what the B-roll should be are my favorite emotional moments. I've had clients who are like, we want to put some graphics here. And I thought the graphics are going to really murder the flow of the piece. It's like you have such an incredible flow. It's the crux of that story. If you drop graphic, no one's going to read it. They don't care. They're listening to the story, but they wanted it. So I have 2 versions of it. One that has all of that stuff out of it. That's the way that I like to tell the story. But the forward-facing one, that's theirs. And you have to be okay. Part of that thing is a pride thing. You just have to be okay to let that down and just say, what's my number one goal? To serve myself and to make me look amazing? or is it really to serve my customer and give them something that they're really excited about and what they want, what they'd like?
And directors sometimes too. Even I become a client because I've done VO for a director's version of their project.
Really?
Yes. So I've done that several times. And so, like, I'm doing the director's cut of this. This is my personal vision for the project, but I didn't like the original VO, that kind of stuff. And I've done that several times. Yeah. So even a director who is doing their own version can be a client for a voice actor.
I think voiceover is tricky. I think finding a good voiceover that everyone is happy about.
Right.
Because in their mind because what's the voice? The voice represents that internal dialogue that the client, when they're putting their project out there, they hear that voiceover and think, does that represent us? Mm-hmm. And sometimes if you might have clients, you have different types of clients. Sometimes you're working with a single person who gets to make the final decision. Those are oftentimes the easiest because it's right. Like, here's the thing. They look at it, you talk about it, you're done, right? Sometimes you have client by committee, which I think is the worst one. It's so hard to work with. Their own
voice.
Yeah, and they each hear their own voice for VO, right?
Right.
And one of them I picture us more like, I have a more authoritarian voice when I speak. And one of them's like, no, we need to be more conversational and more like, hey, edgy and friendly, edgy and friendly. I guess you can edgy or friendly, And I think that's something I come across with VO, and I've often done more changes to VO than I've done for anything else, simply because of those reasons. How do you do your projects when it's review by committee? Like, what do you do?
I try to. Here's the interesting thing. When a project comes in, oftentimes I'll send in 2 or 3 different versions for them to hear. But my first version, I don't look at the specs. I go in and feel how the story feels to me. Because oftentimes clients, sometimes they do know what they want, other times they don't know what they want. And I've been hired on several projects where they were like, we were looking for an entirely different voice. And then we heard what you were doing and we decided to go that route. I've had other clients where I get hired and then they decide to change the route in the session. So what I do is I don't look at the specs. What I do is I look at how the copy connects to me and I do it. Then I go back and then I look at the specs and record via the specs. And so that's how I do it. And sometimes how I feel will connect with the client. Sometimes how I do it with the specs will connect with the client. But I give them both options.
Do you send it as 3 separate versions? Do you have like 1, 2, and 3 as 3 separate files, or do you put them all in one file? And if
I usually put it on one file, and it depends on what they ask for, but I usually put it on one file and slate at the top. If I'm slating at the top, I'll either do, Cam Cornelius, 3 reads, or 3 reads.
Okay.
And then go right
into
so
it. They know that even if they don't like the first one, then they'll wait for like, maybe not, and then they might hear the second and third.
I'll do it really quick and unobtrusive, if I'm doing that. Sometimes they will ask for more than 1 read. In which case I won't even slate at the top. People really don't like slating at the front anymore. So
they don't like to see the slating, or they
don't like it because they're listening to so much that they want to just get into the
skip it
into the project rather than hi, I'm Cam Cornelius, a voice actor from blah blah blah. They don't want to hear all
they
that.
just skip all that. Right. Maybe you could just put that in the just the title of the file that you send them. Cam Cornelius 3 reads.
That you can do that. The problem is a lot with that is a lot of times you get very specific requirements because they use the format of how you name the file to do their organization. So sometimes you have to name the file one specific thing, and if one little thing is out of place, then that can get thrown out of the project. So
just because you didn't label it
just
right.
because you put an extra space here or you didn't capitalize here.
Yeah. And someone might be thinking, mine's the best voice for that. They're losing a chance. And for a lot of people, it's time. Time is one of the most important things that they have, and it's something they can't get back. So
exactly.
the chances are that they're going to get somebody who has a great voice who did exactly what they wanted to. Maybe it's not your voice, maybe it's not the very best voice because your voice wasn't on there, but they're going to get a voice that they like and that works for their company and that they complied with exactly what they wanted. So
Exactly.
so
The
I
first
think
one they
sometimes-
find. So that's why it's important to get things in early, because sometimes they may not even listen to it if it's, if you're, the 30th audition, they may have cut off at 15.
Well, and think about it too. I mean, we do that all the time, no matter who you
Exactly.
are. Do a Google search.
Yeah.
How many times have you gone to the 5th or 6th or 7th page to
Yeah.
look for something in Google? Or do you Google something? If it's not on the first page, you write another Google search. Oh, maybe I just didn't get the right name, and
Right.
you try a different search. Same thing with voiceover. Same thing with actors. Sometimes it depends. If I'm looking for a very specific actor, you'll go through a lot more files.
Mm-hmm.
Like the other day, I went through for a commercial I was working on. I did 10,000 people I will look through to find the one. 10,000. And I couldn't find the one. And then other times it's like I went through 6 people and I found the one that I wanted,
Right,
and that was
right.
good. That was great. And I moved on. It was interesting. One story, something that you said a little bit earlier about you going and give your read for it. We were doing a feature with 7 Story, and we had a guy named Walmsley. The character's name was Walmsley. And in our mind, he was this really tall, almost wrestler style, big African-American guy. And he was going to be kind of this strong linchpin of the piece. And this dude comes in from the Middle East, hat backwards. He had like on this loose shirt, a little bit of hair here, And I'm thinking like, why did this guy come in? And he starts he starts doing this character.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I looked at my producer. I was like, that's actually him. The
Right,
character who
right.
he is, that's this guy. The way
Right.
he played it, he did it entirely himself. We casted him on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't even see anyone else for that character. It was it. So he brought something that he said how he saw it. He's like, I saw the thing what you were looking for, but when I read with this character, I was like, that's me. This is what they want.
Right.
And so I think it's one of those things. What do you do? Do you go in and do exactly what the director wants, or do you bring something that's you? I don't think that you ever feel bad about going in there and giving your version of something, how you'd want to play it, and doing your best at it. Then if they don't want it, then at least you know.
The other thing is, too, if you always go exactly by the specs, 99% of every other thing they're listening to is also going to go exactly by the specs.
Then they're
So
all going to start
you're-
to sound
right.
exactly the same.
Exactly. So when you do something a little different, that helps you stick out a little bit.
Yeah. And I think it's okay. And I find, a company and person who's willing to kind of say, yeah, this is what we were planning, but this person, I like this. Like, it's cool. I think it's exactly like you said. A lot of times the clients don't know.
Right.
I've had times where you get an audition, you'll come through and you'll see like, we're looking for woman, 21 to 42, professional, athletic, mom of 4 who would like, you're like,
Right.
wait, are you literally just trying everyone? I mean, they literally do everything. So I think it's a great opportunity to, again, consider for an auditions, you don't always know what the company is. Sometimes you'll just get in and say, looking for this person, and you'll read and you don't know who the company is. Sometimes when you know who the company is, again, you can go do some research. It's not that hard to do research and to get
Right.
a little bit of extra information on your clients. Whenever I'm working with committee, I've come up with a way that I have streamlined the process of working with committee. Simply having them delegate or designate one person who is my contact person that all changes will funnel through.
Right.
So everyone in that group has to communicate with that one person first before that one person confirms or denies those things that come to me. And I only say, I will only make changes. I will acknowledge I got your requests, but I will
Right.
only make changes if they come through person X, which they get to pick. Sometimes, with Frame.io, when you're working with Frame.io,
Right.
Frame.io is an online application that Adobe just bought that enables you to export projects out of Final Cut, DaVinci,
Right. Everybody can
Premiere.
comment.
Yeah, and everyone can comment. That's the problem. It's a wonderful thing, but also at the same time, everyone can comment. That's also a problem.
Right.
So when you first start using Frame.io or even any application process where you're getting feedback from everyone, email chains, whatever they are, or Slack, whatever you're working in, you're going to have hundreds of emails, hundreds of notes. And the more you give a client access to make comments, you best believe the more comments you're going to get.
Right.
So sometimes if you're like, this is a fast turnaround, I don't want a ton of feedback on the thing, shoot it in an email and an email only. Because then they'll come back and they'll write like, hey, here's 5 or 6 things we need to change. Maybe you'll have to go back and forth a few more times, but if you do Frame.io, something about it, they like to look at it. They can take time with it. They feel more involved in that editing process. So in the end, if there's any problems with the edit, you could say, we worked on this together.
Right.
Like this is a you and me thing from the very beginning, from the very first cut to the very end. I've done all your feedback. I've made your changes. There's a partnership aspect to it, and there's a sense of ownership in the post-production. So you're more likely to get paid and more likely to have a positive result in that case. Whereas if you go the single route and send off an email and you have a few changes, you make those changes, they either like or don't like the project. You know, like, oh, we don't like it or we like it. So I found that's a great way to streamline it. And then I also did the thing where I will do, rough cut, fine cut, final cut, be very, very detailed and specific about exactly what these deliverables will be. It's why you create a scope of service at the beginning of a project. What's the scope of service? Our production company is going to provide these services to your company. We're going to do a script. We're going to do XYZ, XYZ, right? Then we're going to shoot the project. We're going to have this many days of production. We're going to be shooting in these locations. This is the end result of what we're trying to achieve. And then you go into post-production and this many days of post-production. Here's the post-production process. Anything that goes over the initial edits, which is your rough cut, fine cut, final cut, whatever bulk you charge for, $1,500 for all those. Okay, $1,500. Anything that goes over that and beyond that, bill at an hourly rate way higher than your regular rate. So if you bill $70 an hour, you're going to do $200 an hour for changes after that. What it does is it reduces the amount of continual changes for those who like to tweak and poke and tweak and tweak. Anyone who's done any of the editing process or any creative process knows your project is never actually ever finished. It's only either abandoned, right? Because you're like, it's good enough. It's the point. So this is for those people who will always be like, well, maybe can we change it? Like, is it a lighter blue or can we move the font just a little down and a little to the left? And is there another quote where they might be saying like, sure, I'll do that all day. We're already past the scope of service here. It's $200 an hour. I'm happy to do that for you all day. But is that, is this important? And then most of those changes disappear. And then oftentimes there might be one more, 1 or 2 changes. Then, okay, I made $200 in an hour to do that. I'm okay with that.
And it's the same in VO. I'll usually offer 1 or 2 client end revisions. And past that, usually another, minor revision is, half the price, and another, large revision is another like full price, after those first 2 revisions, everything gets
it's a pricing. That's what
issue,
I had this question because, so I was doing voiceover for a company. I did one take for it. They wrote a script and they gave it to me and I did the read for it. They're like, okay, this is great. And then literally it was 2.5 weeks later, they're like, it went through our legal team. The legal team says this wording isn't right. Can you take out this sentence and will you do this sentence again?
And
so,
go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that happened. And then it happened again. And then it happened again, like 3 times. And then my voice was so different because from one day to day, I didn't notice, like in the morning, it's different from in the afternoon and different from the next day. Right. So when I'm listening back, it sounds like there's 3 different people doing this read. And I was like, I'm going to have to redo this whole thing. I know it. And then they literally called back again after almost a month and a half. They're like, hey, we have some more changes for this. Can you do the script again? I'm like, we're just rereading it. And then I rebuild. How do you do that? Like with your voice, it's not a synthesizer,
There's different things. First of all, my first question would be, has it aired yet? Have you used it in any capacity? Because
no,
if
it didn't.
Because if you've already used it, then we're looking at another project.
Okay.
Because it's already been used.
No, it keeps going back through legal. It's like legal and then legal and then legal.
That basically comes under what we said, client-side revision. So if it's a long-time client and it's something out of the ordinary, I might let it slide a little bit. But they need to make sure that they have run this through every bit of legal that they can run it through before they come back and ask for the revision. Why?
Yeah, I think that was the script. Yeah, exactly.
Why did they send it back, say it's gone through legal, and then send it back, said it's gone through legal again?
And it wasn't like they went through legal and they didn't like what I'd said. They would
Right.
literally change something else that had been okay before.
Right. Exactly. And so
And,
that falls under the revisions. You put in your contract, okay, I'll give you 2 client side revisions. If I make a mistake, I'll give you however many revisions we need to fix the mistake.
Yeah, because
free
it
of
was
charge,
me.
'cause it
It's
was me.
Yeah, yeah.
But you've got 2 chances here to get your script right.
Yeah,
2 additional chances to get your script right.
right.
And so past that, then yeah, it just becomes if it's a minor thing, and we'll work on if it's just a sentence or a paragraph, it'll be this much. If it's, a whole chunk of the script, if there's a complete rewrite, then it's this, so, because all those things happen. So, you just need to be very, it's very important to, at the outset of your client, be very clear on what your revision policy is, because like you said there, you could end up spending, your entire day with one client and you're not getting other work done that you need to get done.
Yeah, I think that's one of the
So-
hardest challenges when a client comes back and says they want to make changes to something you've already approved and it's gone, is that
Right.
it's not that how long did it take me to do that? Oh, it might take me 30 minutes, but it's like I have to stop what I'm doing. I have to shift my gears. I have to
Exactly.
find the hard drive, whether it's on the cloud or whether it's somewhere else. Maybe sometimes they even ship the hard drive. They're sending it back to me. I'm reloading it, from refamiliarizing myself with the project, trying to remember how I did it, what I did, what changes they are. I'm putting that back on, and then I'm uploading it again. It's more of a hassle to you than it's worth. It's not worth it for me. I literally, after those times, I do not want to see your project again. But if we have to, for any reason, especially if it's me, like you said, I'll eat it. If it's my fault, I'll eat
Right.
it. Like if I
Of
made
course,
a mistake
yeah.
on something, I didn't estimate something, I eat the cost. I'm not going to
Exactly.
charge. Your client's going to respect that. If you're charging your client for things that are your fault, even if you think it's not your fault, it's not me. Sometimes you're going to have to decide, am I willing to die on this sword? Am I willing to lose this client over this particular item because, I did deliver and did X, Y, Z. Oftentimes when I'm working post-production projects, I'll do half of the cost of the post-production up front and half of it on the back end. Why is that? I do this for a particular reason, because editing and most of creative work is so subjective. To me, it might sound amazing, but to someone else, they don't like it. Someone
Right.
in that company might think it's fantastic. You're working together, and then that gets passed on to the, vice president of that department, and he hates it. I don't like it. It's terrible. This is the worst thing I've ever seen. Why? I just don't like it. Okay, well, the client's like, and you're like, can I get paid for the rest of it? They're like, no, he's not going to pay you anything. You lose everything. Whereas if half up front, half on the back end in post-production, it's like, you realize there's a risk in this process. It's a creative process. There is a chance that you won't like it for whatever reason. I'm a talented person. I've done lots of these things before. Here's my resumes. Here's the experience. Here's my reel. You're hiring me because you like what I've done. Do you like what I've created? Yes. Okay. That's my vision. That's my creativity. I'm willing to bring that to the project. And so in exchange for me to work with you, I'm going to need half of the cost of this up front, just in case for any reason you don't like it. That way we both eat something. Maybe you eat half of the cost because you don't like it, but I get half of the cost. So it's we each split that half.
And they're more invested in it in the beginning as well.
Correct.
So yeah.
And they're more invested in getting the projects finished when they have skin in the game. A lot of
Exactly.
times you'll do a project if you're doing an edit or something or in VO, and the cost is on the back end. They don't care if it takes a month and a half, whatever. But you've done all the work, and you're like, I need to get paid. Like I
Right.
need to be paid because I have bills. I have other people I have to pay. That's one of the things that I think is really helpful because it's skin in the game, and that's right. So for my production cost, everything up front for production for me. And I usually want it 3 to 5 days before, depending upon how many locations we have to secure, gear we have to do. And I like to pay people that are working with me when we're finished production. Because if I can do that, if I can do that, then let's say the person I hired as a sound guy has another shoot coming up and I need him on the 15th. And he's like, well, I just got asked by this other company and, they're paying me $700. And I'm like, I've got $600, but I'll pay you today.
Yeah.
He's going to be like, okay, so I
Okay.
do that for my crew thing because then I get a pick of who I want to be there because they know they're going to get paid right away. And even if I had to pay them a little bit less, then they get paid right away.
Right.
And I'm going to more likely be able to have that. And I've had people rebook another gig and put someone else on their gig in order to work for my company on mine. So I think it's just treating people with respect
Mm-hmm.
and care from the very beginning to the very end. And what is my goal in the work that I'm doing is to create something that will make my client happy, my customer happy,
Mm-hmm.
and will also really connect with their audience in a cool way.
And the client has to realize that you're running a business as well. Now, you have to realize you're running a business.
That's true.
Because
it's not
lot
a
of times
charity
it
unless you're a charity.
Right, exactly. It becomes personal sometimes, and you got to realize that no, this is a business. I get to keep doing what I do because I get paid for doing what I do.
Yeah.
If I don't get paid, or if payment doesn't come or is late or what, I may not get to keep doing what I do.
Yeah, and something I learned is I've stopped doing free video production, free editing. I've stopped doing anything that's related to my work for free.
Right.
I've done so many charity things, and oftentimes the most I've been taken advantage of is by charities.
Right.
Because then I'll get changes. There's no cost. There's no pain for them. It's just, and it's constant critiquing in order. And it's I've been taken advantage of the point that I'm upset or angry while I'm doing a project. And if I'm angry while I'm doing something for free and I'm feeling that inside, I'm not passing on wholeness, health, goodness. I'm thinking, well, I'm going to get karmatic points for this or whatever your case. You're not going to get those because what is your attitude? Your attitude is angry, and your heart is not in a giving attitude, and that's worse than not doing it at all.
Right.
So I've pretty much 99% stopped doing it. I will donate other parts of my life. I'll come to a food drive, I'll do a bank, I'll give money, I'll do other types of free service that's not related to my job. So that there's in my mind, I create that value of my work. If I'm doing one project for free, the same project, then I'm doing another client and I'm billing XYZ for this, there's a disconnect that can happen in your mind, and you can undervalue your work on the future projects.
Right.
Because someone paid nothing for it. Or someone paid really, really low. And so if you think, maybe I should charge more for this. If I don't know, but that was free. Or maybe they might say, well, they only paid $1,500 for theirs. How do you do that?
Something as far as that's a good point there. If I'm doing charity work or if I'm giving someone a discount, I always put my full price on the invoice. And then I put the discount.
And then you do a
amount.
deduction.
Right.
That's a good idea.
So that the value of the service is never undervalued. The value of the service didn't change, but here's a discount you got because of this, or this is a discount we put on there. It's like a one-time discount, or this is a charity discount. That kind of thing. But I always keep the value of the service the same, so it does not get devalued.
Yeah, the free work that I do or have done is generally related to something I very, very strongly believe in. Or if it's a project I'm excited about doing and I've wanted to be a part of it. I've worked on other people's fun films, a film they're doing for themselves, story-driven film, something that I enjoy, and I'm doing it because I really love it and want to. So I'm not saying don't do this for free for people. It's just a stance that I've taken. And I find that in every area my work has been blessed better, and I just feel better. So when I finally do say yes to a project that I have done, it's coming from a place of wholeness, and I genuinely want to do this. And I also have good boundaries in that process. If they're saying, no, I need this by Thursday, you're like, no, I'm doing this for free, man. Sorry, I can give it to you next Friday. If that's not fast enough, you can find somebody else who can help you. That's if you'd like me to help you, this is when I can get it to you. So that way I'm not putting all this pressure on myself to do something that's not ultimately going to be able to help my business be a business.
Right.
Okay, one of the things in terms of pricing, how do I determine what my price or what my value is? Let's say you've never done this before and you've got your first client and they're saying, hey, will you do this music video? We have a music video. Well, the first thing you need to go do is after you've determined what the story is and you figured all that out, you need to begin to budget for it. How in the world am I supposed to budget for this music video? $1,000 sounds like a lot. How about $1,000? You'll end up paying for that music video. You'll end up being like, I just paid them $2,000 to have their music video. So what you need to do is I generally start with location and gear and team. So if I have an idea, I know I'm going to need my director of photography, someone running my camera. Maybe that's me. If I'm doing it, okay, I'm running it myself, but I'm also going to need, I need my camera. I need my cards and my media. I need my hard drive. I need my audio. I need my lights. Do I need somebody to help me with my lights? Maybe you don't know that the name of that person's a gaffer or a grip.
Right.
I just know I need lights. Okay,
Travel
great.
time, something to carry everything in.
Travel time. Do I need a truck? Is it big enough to fit in a truck? Can I put it in my car if I need to get a truck?
Permits.
Permits,
I mean,
especially if you're shooting in LA or different cities where
Exactly.
there's a lot of production. If you don't have permits, that's a choice you're going to have to make. But if you get caught, that's going to be a very, very steep fine, often more than the cost of the permit.
Right.
So,
Consumables. I mean, there's a huge list.
yeah. So first of all, just go down your basic gear. And I like to split it in terms of departments. Okay. So what are my different departments? My camera department. What does my camera have to have in order to function? I'm going to need a lens. I'm going to need the camera. I'm going to need the sticks. I'm going to need media to record to, and I'm
Right.
going to need something to put that media on. Yes, there's more to it. You get monitors, blah, 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 but the basic, like basic. Okay, that's what I need. Who can I do that by myself? No, I can't. I'm going to have to hire somebody. Okay, get online and reach out to some people. How much do you charge? Find out what people's rates are. Okay, the average DP right here is they're charging $500 for this little production. Okay, that goes on my budget. $500 for them. And then the camera. Okay, wow, that's $600 for this camera. Okay, that's $600 for the camera. Maybe you find a DP that has a camera and they're willing to throw that price in there. After you've done this for each department, my sound guy, okay, he needs sound equipment. Okay, I figured that guy. Do I need a set design? Do I need something in the background? You know, do I need to rent lights? How much are my lights going to cost? Once all that stuff is balanced, then I like to write that down in a budget and then think about it. I want to make a profit on this project. Sometimes it sounds wild if you have a $10,000 project and you put $10,000 profit. People are like, whoa, what am I paying for this $10,000 for? So I often put that as a contingency. So you can add a contingency fee, and then you have a processing fee, which might be 6% of the entire budget. So at $10,000 or whatever, I'm putting 6%, maybe that's $600 for that, plus a contingency fee that for all those budgets I miss. Whoops, I messed up. We needed to rent an extra truck. Oops, we need a permit for this. No, we need an extra 10 lunches because the clients brought all of their brought their entourage with them and I didn't plan for it. So that's what my contingency fee is. And generally contingency fee is 10% of the budget. So if it's $10,000, I'll do a $1,000 contingency fee, and whatever money I don't spend in the contingency fee, I put that back into the company. If it does get costed out, generally it does. I usually use about 5 to 6% of it on average for things that are just incidentals.
Right.
They come up. Parking needs this. This thing happened. Someone got a flat tire on the way and we need an Uber to pick them up to get them there. We don't know. That's a contingency, right? To be able to do that. So that'll give you a rough idea of what the budget is. So for you personally as a director or as a voiceover, I like to say, okay, I'll ask my client, I'll put it out there. What do I want to make? One of the great ways to try to figure this out is determine your monthly budget. How much money do you need to survive? What is your rent? What is your food? What is your gas? What is your insurance? All of those things. Then divide that by the working hours. Let's say there's 8 to 10 hours a day. You pick 10 hours a day. Okay, how many days are you going to work? 20 hours a day. How much money do you need to make per day in order to make your bills? Plus, I like to add like $2,000 on there to just in case, investment, all of this stuff, right? So then you can figure out, okay, I need to make $480 per day or whatever, depending upon where you live, in order to function properly and run my business, or whatever you're doing. So that's a great start. In order to do that, I need $500. I tell my client $500. Client says, okay. I work on the project. They're happy. They go back. Wow, $500, and they didn't say anything. Okay, so the next client that comes, I charge $600.
Right.
How much is it? At $600 a day. And if the client's like, okay, 600, great. Then I might do 700 for the next client, and just keep going until you find that sweet spot. You'll find that spot where finally people are like, I don't know, we're going to go somewhere else. That's kind of a good indicator that I'm at the top end of what people are willing to pay at that moment for my service, at that level of where I'm operating. How do you get into that next bracket? Oftentimes you're working on projects that happen to land in your lap, or you're shooting some of your own projects, spec commercials, you're creating something else where you're investing your own money to create that next level of looking content so that you can start to reach for clients who are willing to pay that next bump.
Right.
What about for voiceover? How do you charge? Do you do rate thing, or you?
Yeah. Well, it depends. Every client is different. So, I'm a small business. I work with other small businesses and we work together. But generally for rates, there's a couple of resources that I look to. If it's a domestic project in the United States, I'll look at the GVAA rate guide. And they keep up with the the sweet spot of what is being charged for all these different genres. And the same with Gravy for the Brain for international, like projects in Europe or overseas. They have a rate guide as well. And so that gives you a good ballpark figure to go and see what your rate is going to be. Very important, because as a voice actor, you don't want to undercut your service. There is a lot of times with these online casting things, there's kind of a race to the bottom, and people need to realize that quality actually costs something. A lot of these cheaper voiceovers are people who haven't put in the years of experience that others have. So you'll notice a price versus quality gap. So you might be able to spend, $10 on a voiceover, but the quality is not going to be where, spending $300 on the voiceover is. So I try to keep up with being generally in where the rate guide says you should be. That's a very good thing to do. And I will give, say, discounts if there's a client that I work for like a long time, or they give me so many, for instance, say an auto dealership. They're going to be doing several commercials a month. So it would be stupid of me to look at and say, oh, I'm going to charge you $300 per commercial like I would a regular commercial, because their runtime is only, maybe a week, 2 weeks. So I will do several commercials for the price of maybe one commercial with that client, because they're sending me regular work multiple times a week. Mm-hmm. So there are specific circumstances where you would not go by the rate guide per se. You would go with a like a roster rate or something, because they're sending you work constantly. But other than that, take a look at the GVAA rate guide, and that will give you a good idea of what to charge, whether it's a national commercial, a local commercial. Things you need to look at are how long it's going to be playing. What's the runtime of the commercial? Will it be running 13 weeks? Will it be running a year? Will it be broadcast? Will it not be broadcast? Is it for a kiosk? Is it for a museum? I mean, all those questions are answered in the rate guide. And so it gives you a pretty good idea of what to aim for.
Very cool. An author and a friend of mine, Bruce Wright, he's written a number of books. One of them was Transcendental Thought Leadership. He wrote The Right Exit Strategy. Is a new book out called Apples of Your Genius. And he talks in those books about valuing yourself as a creative and what you have to offer. And I like, he used a fee called he used an idea called an impact fee. Mm-hmm. An impact fee being what kind of impact is what you are creating going to have for the client that you're serving. We have been conditioned and trained to think hourly mindset in a way, like what is it per hour? Even attorneys, even doctors, different people, I get paid this many dollars an hour. And so let's say you have a realtor who helps sell your house, and he's charging you $6,000 to sell your, $1 million house. Or let's say $16,000.
Right.
And he sells it in 45 minutes. Makes a couple phone calls, sells your house. And he's like, hey, I need the $16,000. And you're like, what? How many hours did you work? And he's like, well, I worked for 34 minutes. Well, that's only 34 minutes. I'm not going to pay you $16,000 because you worked 34. No, it's like he helped sell your $1 million house in 34 minutes.
And
you made $9,996,000, whatever, 980,000, and you pay him 16,000 or 984,000. You pay him 16,000. That's an impact fee, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes in terms of negotiating, especially with the company, I like to think, am I making a product for them that they're going to make millions and millions of dollars on? And I've done that. I've worked with a number of clients that I did the project for them. I build them according to how that early mindset was, and they ended up making over $20 million, and I made $11,000. And a lot of that was my knowledge, my work, my team, whatever it was. So also in terms of thinking about your clients, think about where is it going? What is the impact going to be to them? And I negotiate from that point of mindset going into things, what are they going to get from this?
Right.
Sometimes I'll charge less for a company that's a startup because they're moving into a place and I'd like to get them as a client going forward. Other times they're an established client that's creating a product that they're going to then turn around and sell. I'm going to want a percentage of that, X amount of dollars plus a percentage of the sales that you make. It's impact because it's going to have an impact that's greater than this amount, than the time that I'm spending to create this. Its impact goes on beyond that. And if we can begin to think that way, then we begin to value what we're creating, and you're going to start working in a higher echelon of people because they're also working in that capacity,
Right.
or at least they begin to value what you create more. They're less likely to ask you to do things that are just beneath you in a sense. You know, they're less likely to take advantage of you. They're less likely to offer you small things like, hey, will you do this for $150? Like, no, they're not gonna, no, like
Right.
it's going to take me 2 days to do this. Like I need to be paid properly. So, I think those are just in terms of figuring out pricing. It's one of the trickiest parts of doing business, especially for a creative. And it's great that you said there's a guide sheet for that. There is not a guide sheet for production. There is one for the DGA if you're going to do TV shows or if you're going to do commercials that are airing nationwide or even globally. They do have rates that they use for the Directors Guild of America, and the same thing with cinematographer and producers.
And SAG-AFTRA has a rate
SAG-AFTRA
sheet
has a rate
as
sheet
well,
as well.
because union rates are different than the non-union rates, right?
Yeah, even if you're being like an extra on a production, you know, an extra might get $80 a day, whereas a union extra is going to get $125 to $150 to up to $300, depending upon what they're trying to do. And you're going to get better food, and you're going to, but the rates are going to be at least established through there. And when you're working with a corporation, giant companies, there are going to be certain expectations set. But when you own your own company and you're trying to determine what the value of your work is, it's not. There is no rate card. There is no guide. It is what you're willing to create, what they're willing to pay for it, and what you're willing to give your work over there for. And it takes practice to figure that out.
And you can also be creative. Like, for instance, if you like the product that you're working for, sometimes you can work out trade if it's something that you use. Or, you know, you can work out maybe a part of the company, stock or something like that. A lot of times companies will be able to pay you in what they produce or a part of the company if you feel like you want to be invested in that company.
Mm-hmm. I actually did that with the car one time. I was looking at this Beamer, and I'd gone in to talk to the sales guy, and I said, I got X amount of dollars I want to spend on this, and the car was more than that. And the guy's like, I said, this is what I want to spend. I said, I tell you what, you need a video. I saw your website. I was like, and he said, actually, the guy's like, no, I really can't do that. And I said, look, I'll give you this video if you'll knock off this much dollars. Meet me here. I'll pay you this cash, and then we'll the rest. I'll do some work for you. And then all of a sudden, I hear this shout from the background, hang on a second. And the owner of the company said, what are you doing? And I showed him my stuff. I showed him. He goes, yeah. He said, yeah, okay, done. Let's do this. Done.
Right.
You're going to come in and shoot this for me? He said, yeah. So he knocked off, almost $10,000 off the cost of the thing. I got it for the $20,000 and whatever it was. And they got the video. So, there's so many, it's fun. There is no right or wrong. It's literally what you as the creative are willing to negotiate and what the person who is hiring is willing to pay. Bruce recently got that. He did some work for a company, and he was looking to get a new car. And he just negotiated and said, how about you guys, instead of paying this, I'd like a new car. How about you guys do a lease for this new car? You pay the lease every month. You get to write it off against your stuff. I get the car, and you get my work. We'll call it even. So he got a brand new car. They did the lease off of the thing. He pays nothing on it, and they get his services. So it's really really fun, especially if you don't think like I make this and this is what I get. Just think in that creative spot. Impact fee. What is the value of I'm creating? What do they want? And that comes from understanding what your client wants.
Right. They might need service all the time, and so you can say, well, let me think here. Would you like to do a retainer? They might not have a job one month, and they might have 3 jobs the next month. They don't really know, but guess what? We're on a retainer month to month, and you get my services up to X amount, per month.
Yeah, so a retainer is when the company will hire you X amount of dollars a month. So let's say if I'm going to work for one client, I'm going to give them 20 hours of work, and I'm going to charge them $10,000 a month for it.
Right.
So then that way, they know like, okay, so then they get that many hours. If they don't use it, then they don't use it. I
right.
get $10,000 and they didn't use it. Generally, they're going to use it because they know they're paying for it.
But make sure you put a limit on the amount for that retainer because I've seen people get stuck in, the company uses them all the time because they didn't put a limit on how much work they do for the retainer.
Yeah, that you can do hourly. That I do it's an hourly amount because I'd say, it's $10,000 for 20 hours of work. I might do 30 hours of work and I only charge them for 10. It just depends. I just have that as a hard and fast. If I begin to feel that company is taking advantage of that, then I'll just do a reminder of that. Hey, I'm already at my, I've got 5 more hours, just letting you guys know.
Yeah. And I'll do that like way, many pages of copy is what I will do. So, you get this many pages of copy per month.
Okay. And you're like, I'm already at, 27 pages.
Exactly.
You got 3 more left, just letting you know.
Yeah. And then you have a price above that.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you have last I think before we kick off here is just invoicing. So finding the right bank and finding the company that you want to work with and what's the best way to make sure all your payments go out, payments come in, transaction is smooth as possible. You can start your own company as an LLC or as a DBA. You can get all the paperwork done at your local business bureau. And
Small Business Development
Center Association will help you get that set up. You should have at least a DBA or you should have an LLC, depending upon where you are. LLC, I think more for if you own property or if you have lots of gear and equipment that's going out on a regular basis. DBA, or if you're just like an editor, audio shooter. We talked with Sigma Peglia about that, and he said that there's some great advice he has in there, legal advice about setting up your company and how to run that. So
he recommends everybody do at least an LLC.
Yep. And then what I don't know, I had a brain fart, but the one where you're essentially lending yourself out, especially if you're working with major companies.
A loan out corporation.
A loan out corporation. So check out Rob Sigma Peglia. I don't remember what episode it is. Maybe we can put the link in the bottom here so you can check out. And there's some legal information about what to do to set up your business.
Huge tax advantages as well.
Yes, that'll help you can write off stuff as opposed to getting taken advantage of where you can't write anything off. So what do you write off? Keep track of everything that you spend on every production. Anything that goes into the cost of the production is a write-off. You do not have to pay taxes for those pieces. So make sure that you're keeping a good detailed record of everything that is getting spent out. Yeah. If you're buying a new computer, you're buying new equipment, you're buying new gear, those are all write-offs that get deducted off of the total amount of money that you made that year, and you get to decrease the amount of money that you owe on taxes because those are investments into your company. So,
and in many cases, you can depreciate the entire purchase for that year rather than having it depreciate each year. So you get the full amount that first year.
Yeah, full amount. There is a toss-up whenever you are writing off deductions. It decreases the amount of money, the net profits you have. So if you're trying to make loans or if you're trying to get, want to make a loan on a house, you want to do something, talk to your accountant before you do that, because let's say you're planning on building a house, you're going to want to take less deductions to show that you have more income so that you can sustain the payment on the house or whatever you choose. If you are claiming off the most deductions, oftentimes you'll find out that it shows on your income you make less money than you actually are making to live off of. Because I could simply make a decision and swing my money away from investing into something into a house if I needed to do it. But on paper, I'm spending all that money on my taxes. So I'm not an accountant. I don't know for sure, but that's just what I've discovered in this process.
How many millionaires and billionaires, they live off their investments. And so it shows that they hardly make anything, even though that they have all these assets. So it just, it's just numbers, folks.
Yeah. So I think there's going into this thinking, is there a set way to do this? No, there's not a set way to file your taxes. There's not a set way to run your business. There's not a set way to invoice or to bill. It's different. And you're going to find out what works with you and with your company, and that's trial and error. And it's first determining the value of what you have to offer and the hard cost of what it costs to execute on whatever you've agreed to do. So hopefully this has been helpful in terms of looking at a business. Hopefully you've gleaned something from this. If you've got any great ideas or how you run your business, we want to hear from you as well. So if you want to comment on the section, add to the conversation, whether on YouTube, Instagram, you can reach us on Podbean, any of your major podcast places. You can listen to the show.
Or YouTube.
Yeah.
Yep. YouTube. And save enough money to buy merch.
Yes. Look at this shirt. Isn't that nice? That blue actually looks good on you. It's a nice
Thank
thing.
you very much.
Yes, you can do watch.entertainmentdudes.com, and this is entertainmentdudes.merch, right? Or
merch.entertainmentdudes.
merch.entertainmentdudes.com.
Yes.
And you can get some t-shirts and help fund what we've got coming up. We're really wanting to get outside of the studio and get onto some locations and go in and see some of the
Yes.
things, but we're going to need to expand our crew. So we're going to need to hire also other people to work with us. And every penny that you spend on any of our merch is going to enable us to expand our marketing, to increase our reach, and also to
Right.
go to some more cool
We'll
places.
be looking
So,
for a social media coordinator and all kinds of people. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we are. And so we're looking forward to expanding, and hopefully you're growing with us. Thanks for supporting the show, and thanks for being with Entertainment Dudes. Have an awesome week.
Ditto.
Entertainment Dudes.